Alrighty, hello everybody. We are now at part 6 now of the retrospective series. It's probably like video 8, I think it is, but part 6 technically, because we're now just on track and field. There's more videos than parts, but that's just because part 3.1, 3.2, yada yada. Anyways, now part 6, Hartnell Community College, track and field. You know, it's funny. Just for an intro, I'm going to give what was one of the hardest seasons for me, and then one of the greatest seasons. Like, DP, actually, he has a really good quote that he told me, one of his, call it DP-isms, similar to my Riley-isms. My most popular one, and most well-known one was, let's run for it, literally in this case. But for DP, he had this, I don't know if he still has, but he had a whole note filled with inspirational phrases that really helped him out, okay? And one of them was, setbacks are setups for comebacks. Let me tell you something, there are a few quotes as true as that one in life, and one of my life experiences that really showed me that's true, very similar to the phrase, when you hit rock bottom, nowhere to go but up, is my track and field experience at Hartnell, okay? So let's go into it. I'm very excited to talk about Hartnell Community College track and field. It's filled with a lot of great memories, even if there were some rough parts. So let's get to it. You know, I don't know if it's been obvious, but I've been trying to wear gear associated in each video with my respective schools. So like in King City, I wore the 2019 CIF shirt. And then I think I wore an NAIA shirt, one of my track and field and cross country shirts, actually, and two of the King City ones. Hartnell, though, I wore the quarter zip, the polo. I was about to wear a quarter zip for this video, but then I decided I'd break out my 2022 track and field NorCal Championship shirt. Got this one because even though it was one of the worst races of my life, I still got my name on the shirt. So figure might as well wear it. Anyways, I'm trying. It's giving me a way to relive the days I first got the shirts or gear, but also I think it's good, you know, promote your school. So I think in the King City one, though, I might have worn some of my NAIA stuff. Can't all be perfect. Anyways, Hartnell and Merced, though, I'm gonna for sure be only wearing Hartnell and UC Merced merchandise respectively. Anyways, off that little topic. So 2022 track and field. I'm gonna be real with you guys. I don't know, I kind of talked about this in the cross-country video. 2022 track and field, I don't know quite why the season went the way it did. It actually had one of the best starts I'd ever had to a season. Here's what happened. So, after cross-country, took my little break, and then I just started running and getting ready, you know. Had my long runs with the team, got ready. And this was the start of running as of this point in time, my longest ever race, Mission 10. A nice 10-mile race. So at Hartnell in cross country we had the 10-minute test. In track and field we had a 10-mile test. The 10-minute test, the way it worked in cross country is, the idea is that in 10 minutes how much distance could you cover? Ideally you run a full 2 miles on the track, or 3,200 meters, okay, whichever distance you want to say. In track and field it's off non-specific training, just mileage and a little bit of strides and maybe a few tempos and strides here and there. What can you run for a 10-mile race, okay? And that 10-mile race, I actually had a really good race. I managed to run 58:41, which is 5:52 or 5:51 per mile for 10 miles. I had a really, really good 10-mile race, and I felt great. You can see the photo of it. I look like I'm scrunching my face there, but I actually had a really good race, and the season was looking to start off so good. I don't know what happened, though. It kind of didn't go that way. There might be a few. I think the main reason, just looking back, and I mean, at the time I was 19, I'm 22 now, so 3 years later, I can look back on with a new lens. I think the main thing that got me looking back was that was the first time I really had in-person classes that semester, and along with those in-person classes I was commuting more to Hartnell, and I think that stress got to me more than I realized it would. and I was still working at the ranch at that time for a little bit. Like, I think it took a much bigger toll on me than I expected. Whereas in 2021, I was still working on the ranch, and I was still running and taking classes, but all my classes were online the first semester. So turns out not having to sit and lecture all the time and go back and forth from the campus for classes and for running, turns out wears you out in a different way than you see coming. So I think looking back, my body just kind of got broken down. And up until that point, I still had the same schedule that I was used to, so that's why it didn't break down on me. It is what it is, but for what it's worth, I still had a great 10-mile race debut. 58:41, and basically I ran a bunch of sub-18-minute 3 miles for across 10 miles, and high school me would have been very proud. But yeah, 2022 track and field, I had a really good start, but then I didn't really break through. I remember it all goes back to the first race. I had the 3K at, what was it called? Gym Lithium? It was some invitational at De Anza. It was called like the Gym L something invite. I'd have to look up what it was. But I ran there, and I only ran 9:25 for the 3K. And if you convert that to a 2-mile time, you add roughly 40 seconds. That means I ran 10:05. Yes, that's faster than 10:33 in high school, but already in cross country, I had a 9:59, 3,200 meters from the 10-minute test, and I had a good 10-mile race debut, so I should have been way faster. Like, wasn't matching up. Then the rest of the season was kind of like that. The fastest I ended up going on the 1500 was 4:16. I go off the conversion, you add about 17 seconds. I was 4:37 in high school. Okay, technically that's about a 4:33 1600 meters, or 4:34, something like that, if you go off that 4:33 if you go off that 17-second conversion. It's not a big PR at all. I was in way better shape. I was 16:06 in the track and field 5K. I then went 16:16. And then the 10K I kind of don't really like consider that one a failure, even though it should have been faster. But I went 34:45, which is 5:36 per mile. That was the fastest I went. And overall, I didn't really have the breakthrough that I felt I should have had. And it didn't help that, like, my friends Jose and DP, I was proud of them, but I felt like I should have been there with them. Like, DP went 15:50 on the 5K, and he and I were neck and neck and cross, so it's like, should have been there with him. Instead, I was 16:16, falling behind my own time of 16:06. So, like, yeah, I just wasn't very, and it led to a lot of conflicts with myself, some of my teammates, my coach, then even just at home I was having trouble organizing some things. So that, I just had so much drama that season. And ultimately I just didn't really have the big breakthroughs that I was really hoping for. And I remember that season, I don't know why, I was just very tempted, like, oh my gosh, this sergeant did not help. I had this teacher, Dr. Hornstein, brilliant woman, but she did not support my athletics at all. She's like, you should quit. And that was not helping. I was hearing that from quite some other people too. And, you know, pro tip for life, guys. Anything you do, you're always going to be having to hear people saying how you're doing it wrong. You're doing too much of this, yada yada. You're always going to be hearing that in life. I'm going to tell you something. As hard as it is, you always have to concentrate on what your goals are. Okay? I'm not saying I've done this perfectly. However, I've done it well enough to know that I've stuck in things that I truly want to do. And I think, honestly, that was the only thing that kept me anchored. I was like, you know what? I love to run, even though it's not going that great. I'm going to stick in here. And I just managed to convince myself, hey, you're not having breakthroughs you're wanting, but at least you're getting this. You're surviving the climb. It did not help. We had people dropping like flies that season. We had 2 people already ineligible to compete. We had like 2 other people quit. Like, did not help that people were dropping out like flies. And If you think my coach was happy about that, he was not, and he let us know. So 2022 was kind of a rough season. But I just told myself, survive, at least get through to the end. And as I mentioned in my cross-country video, I was actually going to quit after that season. However, as I also said in that cross-country video, I ended up staying, and I'm very thankful I did. Anyways, same thing goes for track and field, okay? But in 2022, it was rough, and I think the worst race of my life ever was 2022 Occidental Invitational Invite. Oh, man. I ran 16:41. Believe it or not, whatever anyone else says, that was the best effort I could do at the time, and I totally finished dead last in my heat, and it was... I felt so mentally and physically defeated. It was not fun at all. I remember that was back in March of 23. That was kind of the point in the season where I was kind of like, yeah, I might be cooked. Oh, you know what? I think I actually ran an 800 for the first time. I only went 209. I was just like, I can't do anything. Like, it was really rough that whole season. I just could not break through. But I didn't give up. And thank goodness I didn't. With that all said, I've now talked about why 2022 was rough. I am going to say one good thing from it. I do have one very specific memory, and that is 2022 conference. This is by far the hardest and most glorious conference title I've ever won in my entire career of community college and UC Merced. Okay, of the 7 conference titles I ended up getting to be a part of, this one was by far the hardest one to get, but was one of the most rewarding. And I remember we had our first day. I ran as best I could, and I got I ran 10K. I managed to get 8th place in 10K to contribute 1 point. It was us going head-to-head with Danza. Hang on a second, the little battery symbol popped up. And I remember we were going head-to-head with them. And sometimes they get up ahead of us, but then we get up ahead, and it's just going back and forth, okay? Now, remember, I've said we've had trouble here and there this season, but one good, and my coach was this and that about it. Well, one good thing about my coach, he really works with what he has. And I'll never forget this. This is like my end game moment, guys. Here comes the track and field 5K, the second to last scored event. All of us distance runners getting ready, and somebody says, hey, all you guys, come here. And it's like Isaac, Frankie, Bamlon, Ricky, myself, DP, Jose, who else ran the 5K that day? Carlos, some other people that I'm having trouble remembering. But I remember he's like, guys, listen, we're behind Danza by 10 points. It's down to you guys, okay? It is down to you guys. Go out there and run. And know this, I have full faith in you guys. I don't care about times, I care about the place. I know you guys can do it. I have the best runners in Monterey County. Go out there and run. And I remember, even though I was totally tired and sick and injured, I was like, I gotta do my part. I ran. And somehow, I don't know how, I got 7th place to contribute 2 points, I think it was? Yeah, 2 points. And I remember, top 8 score, 7 of those top scores were Hartnell. Only one day ends the guy, Evan Franco, got in that top 8. Hartnell won the conference meet by 4.5 points. And we celebrated gloriously that track and field title. So, for what it's worth, even though my season was not the best, here's one good thing I did. I managed to contribute 3 points to that title that we won by 4.5 points. I gotta be a part of that. And then I did even run NorCal, which is how I got this shirt. I ran the 5K and 10K. Only takes second to last in the 5K and dead last in the 10K. That was monumentally embarrassing. But it is what it is. But yeah, 2022, very rough season. A lot of stagnation. Almost gave up. But very luckily I didn't, because then it led to one of the greatest breakthroughs of all time. So with that, let's now go into 2023 track and field. Now, 2023 track and field is funny. It had nowhere near the start as, okay, I scratched that. It ends up having a better start than 2022. But when I first started training, I had to first get out of my hip injury that I managed to sustain in track. or in cross country in 2022. I remember I took 3 whole weeks off. No weightlifting, no running, nada. Just 3 weeks of pure rest. And then when I started running, I was still a little achy. But I then ended up getting past it after a week or so. I remember my first run back was 8 miles. I ran with Isabel and then Ricky. And I remember I felt so out of shape. I was like, I feel actually a little better, so I think I can work with this. So, I did not have as good a running start. And I remember I was like, oh man, am I even going to be able to do this? Alright, but I just said, Josh, don't worry about that. Just run. And some of my comments was a little demoralized because I kind of had a rough year in running. 2022 cross country had some good parts, but wasn't quite the break I'd hoped. 2022 track and field was not that good. But then, here comes 2023, my final semester at Hartnell, might I add. And I'm hearing potentially that despite everything, some coaches are still interested in having me run from. Montana Tech was a big one. And then some other schools that Zepeda was reaching out to. I'll talk about that in a second. But either way, I was kind of like, I didn't really know where I was going to go, but I just said, just run a day at a time, see what happens. Well, I run. Get ready. We have our 10-mile test. I remember I'm training, I'm getting ready for the race, and I just said to myself, Josh, you got your butt handed you by DP and Jesse and everyone. See what you can do. But I remember I get to the starting line. You can see a little video right here. I was just like, what's going to happen? But I just said, don't worry about what if. Focus on the race. Run with DP and Jesse. Just run with them like you were supposed to in cross. Gun goes off, we go. 3 miles in, I'm still with them. I was like, okay, let's see what we can do. After the big hill, which is miles 4 through 6, I'm still with them. Once I turn around 6.5, it goes up to about mile 5 and then you turn around. But by the time I got to mile 6 when we were on downhill, I was kind of like, you know what? I'm not only sticking with these guys, I'm going to make sure they have to stick with me. I remember I ran to everyone's surprise. I remember I ran, and when that finish line came, I just finished. I was like, oh. I finished the race, and before the race, I told my friends, Moises and Jim, guys, I'm going to tell you something. I would consider it an okay day if I matched my time from last season of 58 of 41. I would consider it a good day if I went 5:45 pace. I would consider it a great day if I go 5:40 pace. Why 5:40s? I don't know. That's just for some reason time that stuck out to me. Or the pace that stuck out to me is good pace for me. I got 5:40 pace. I managed to go 56:41 to have a 2-minute PR to run 5:40 pace for 10 miles. And I was like, I've come back! Oh my gosh, Josh Riley's back! And I was shocked, but I was like, I feel so powerful and good. And after that race, it was the greatest season ever. Even though I sadly did not get to go to state for the 1500 or the 10K, I had a great season. Maybe I could have ran a little faster here and there. I still had a great season. I went from 209 to 201 in the 800. I went from 416 down to 405 in the 1500. Okay, and 405, about a 422 equivalent. Big leagues from last season, excuse me, by the way, and high school. The 3K, I went from 925 to 901 to run a 941 equivalent. I was on par with Benoit and Ricky from high school, their times, okay? 5K, I not only went from, okay, in the cross-country season 4, I went 15:55, so I guess we'll go off that PR. But if we go off from last season, I went from 16:16 down to 15:35. But then from cross-country to track and field, I went from 15:55 down to 15:35. But I got that. And then the 10K, the one-shoe wonder, I went from 34:45 down to 33:03. And I was like, oh my gosh. Now the 10K should have been faster in all my years at Hartnell and Merced. I always managed to do something stupid. I either didn't believe, I got hurt, or in the case of Hartnell, I lost my shoe 3 miles in, and then I just kept running. And if you want to see it, go to the link description below. You can see the Chabot Invitational vlog. Okay, just watch that race. You will see it. I lost my shoe 3 miles in, and then I just kept running like it was nobody's business. And somehow I not only hit a PR, I was 6 or 7 seconds off the state B time for JUCO, and then I couldn't bring it down for some reason. I don't know, but I just had PR after PR that season, and unfortunately, the only downside from that season was Laney last chance, and Coast Conference. I had a stuffy nose, and I was unable to break 2 in the 800. I'd later break 2 at Merced, but that probably would have been the day to do it. But my nose, my allergies caught me. And then at conference, I did not have a good, for some reason, like, I managed to contribute to the team. Like, I got 6th place in the 1500 with 409, okay? Rather than, like, 9th place with 423 like in the previous season. But I only got 6th place to contribute 3 points to our second consecutive track and field title at Hartnell. But I was unable to get all conference in track and field during my tenure at Hartnell. I just managed to screw up conference both times. It is what it is. But I at least contributed 3 points. But 10K I actually ran like 34:59 for 7th. I then got like 10th with like 35:01. I just had a terrible 10K at conference. We took it out tactical, and then I don't know, I just did terrible for some reason. It was rough, but it's what it is. But then 5K I just kind of got tired. I remember I got like 9th or 10th place or something, but that I just kind of had trouble on the 5K at the conference, and between allergies, it was wet and raining. I was just like, forget all this. But both seasons, even though I just talked about how great 2023 track and field was, I managed to botch up conference both times. So no all conference, no getting to state. But I don't consider, even though I didn't get those, I don't consider my track and field career a failure at Hartnell. Like, I managed to still contribute to some conference titles. I got to NorCal both seasons. Okay. 5K, 10K in 2022, then 1500, 5K, and 10K in 2023. I was close to state, just wasn't able to get there. State B was, so I'm going to go A/B. When I was there at Hartnell, it was 359/4 flat. I was 405. Actually, it might have been 4 flat and 401 when I was there, actually. Anyways, and then the 10K, it was like 32:35 or 32:30 slash 32:59. I was 33:03. So like, or 32:55, I'm sorry. So I was close on both. I just unfortunately couldn't do it. And it is what it is. But I don't consider my seasons there at all a failure, even if there were some rough moments. I consider a success. But by far, I won't lie, I think my greatest track and field memory is going to be 2023 track and field. Okay? 2023 track and field was so special. The women won their 4th consecutive NorCal title, for first in Northern California for JUCO. Okay? The men came off a double conference streak, and we took like 7th at NorCal in 2022. 2023, we were the NorCal runner-up. If we had some more sprinters, we would have gone first. Unfortunately, Modesto took the dub on us from that. But we still were the runner-up. And I remember that race, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go out there and run and see what I can do. And I remember I ran the 10K. And remember, leading up to that point, the season before, I was like dead last by a large margin in 2022. Even though I had the 33:03, I had just ran really crappy at a conference. I remember coach said to me when he was putting NorCal injuries, he says, Josh, you have a choice. 1500 and 800 and 5K, or 1500, 10K and 5K. And I said, Coach, I want 1500, 10K and 5K. And he put me in. I remember that 10K race came. I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. Just run. I remember I ran. And I just said, don't worry at all about time. Just work on not taking out these people one by one. I remember I just serpentine after runner, making moves here and there. Unfortunately, didn't PR, even though I had both shoes on. Went 33:10. But I remember I ran it, and I managed to get 8th place to get all NorCal, my first all NorCal medal at UC Merced, or sorry, at Hartnell Community College. And I was just like, I actually got it. Let's go. And it felt good, even though I didn't PR, even though I didn't get to state. I got the all NorCal, and then as a bonus, I got to contribute 1 point to the team score. And then before that race too, I ran the 1500 meter trials, and I managed to barely get in. I got it's top 12 get in. I got 9th place overall with the combined heats to then go into the finals. The next day, we have the rest of the events, all the finals. 1500, where I go out there and run. And I remember going and thinking, I don't think I'm gonna get on NorCal, but I'm just gonna try. I run, and I remember there was these two people, one from Clovis, one from Chabot. They were ahead of me. They had fast PRs, but then out of nowhere, both of them died. I remember when I saw that happen, I was thinking, I need a sign to go for. I said, that's my sign. I just went. I remember Bemon took first, Moy took second, Ricky took third, 2 guys from Modesto then took 4th and 5th. Who's 6th place? Me, the 4th runner from Hartnell for the 1500 meters on the team that season. And then I managed to place as the 4th Hartnell Panther at NorCal for a 6th place finish. No PR for my 405. I went 405, but I was milliseconds off. And I managed to get my 2nd NorCal medal of the day. I then ran the 5K later, where I ran very atrociously. I was 3 places off from last, but it wasn't second to last like last season. And last season I went 17:05. That season I went 16:36. But I was so dead from the 5K and 10K, or from the 10K and 1500. Hilariously, that happens again at UC Merced. I'll talk about that later. But anyways, I remember when they were announcing the NorCal trophy, when we heard that the men got second, we were like, yeah. And I felt so proud that even though I didn't get the all-conference, even though I didn't get to go state, I was still a double all-NorCal guy, and I was a point contributor to 2 consecutive conference titles, and then a NorCal runner-up title. That NorCal runner-up title will be one of my personal favorites. I think, honestly, that, remember how if you've been watching, I talked about in cross-country, the NorCal title. I love 2022 cross-country NorCal, but I think my favorite team win from Hartnell is going to be the 2023 NorCal team runner-up. I do wish we were first, but I just really felt like I was a part of that. And I managed to just pull up one of the biggest comebacks from the previous season. So overall, felt great to be a Panther. So yeah, those are both seasons. I'm now gonna talk about some last little things, and then I'll close out the video. But yeah, track and field Hartnell, it may have started off a bit rough, but I'd say it ended off pretty great, and that's pretty awesome. I do want to close off with, I'm very thankful for Hartnell, and, it's funny. I talked about how I almost quit running before 2022 cross country. I actually did face an impasse in 2023, and I remember it was actually from Dr. Hornstein. I had her for 5 classes at Hartnell Community College. I had her circuit theory course. I remember I said she didn't really like athletics. Well, all her meets were on Fridays and or Saturdays, okay? Her class was the only class in my entire time at Hartnell that was going to be on a Friday. I remember I talked to her, I was like, hey, can we work out something? I've had you for 5 classes, can we do this, can we do that? It all got vetoed. And it ended with her saying, Josh, you have to make a choice. Your athletics or your academics. I'll never forget this phone call. I called Wallow, okay? Bemon's brother is honestly one of my heroes. I told him my situation. You know, most people, I try to be like this. I'm sometimes not always. Most people just tend to give me advice, say, you know, I need to think about what's best, what's right. Wallow was the only person who ever asked me this question. What do you want to do? He didn't give me any advice about what path to take. He didn't tell me what I should do, what's better. He said to me, what do you want to do? And I remember, what was my immediate answer? I want to run with the King City guys. I'm never going to get this back. He went, there's your answer. And I was like, whoa. And then I went home, because I would call him on my drive home from Hartnell, from Salinas. I went home, I wrote an email to her saying, Dr. Hornstein, I'm dropping your class. And she was like, oh, well, hold on, Josh. Like, think of it. And I said, Dr. Hornstein, you told me to be efficient, make a choice. This is the choice I'm making. By the way, guys, you'd think she'd hate me. She doesn't. We're cool. And honestly, even though I sometimes say certain things about her, she's honestly one of the best professors I've ever had. But she and I had different points of views on things. And, well, I really wanted to keep my athletics. But I remember I was always very touched that Wallow just said, think about what you want. So, Wallow, thanks for telling me that. Because I'd like to think I would have kept with the running, but that definitely helped me do it. But I managed to do that. So, I got my dream of running. And I'll admit, I did have to take that course equivalent at UC Merced and then send it back to Hartnell to actually complete my associates. So, Hornstein did get some revenge there. But I don't regret it for a minute that I stuck with that season, because I would have missed out on a conference title, all those PRs, but I wouldn't have been able to go to Merced. That season was when I was emailing back and forth with Vicente, the coach that I later go on to run under UC Merced. Remember, I told him, I was like, hey, I got this time. He says, well, your times could work. And then Zepeda, he reached out, they talked. Once I got accepted, him and Vicente talked. But the day that I would say I ended up running for them would have been, I don't remember, there's some race in April, but it was called the Johnny Mathis Invite, the San Francisco Invite. I remember that day Merced was there. I didn't talk with them at all for some reason. That would have been smart too. But I remember I was like, alright, potential school I could be running under is here. I remember at that time I was like thinking kind of on the fritz about it. Communication was a little stale at points, and I didn't know if like Vicente wanted me. Remember, I just said just run. I run that day. I very conveniently had the best double of my entire Hartnell career. 4:05 and then 15:48 for the 1500 and 5K. And I remember Zepeda told me, he says, hey, the Merced coach, he was talking to me, he said he got some new scholarship funds, and he said, hey, if you're still interested in running for him, he would gladly take you. That day was the real day. I said, alright, I'll go to UC Merced. So, not only did I have a great ending to my community college experience in running, I also, thanks to that season, and make great friendships and such. Signing right here says it all. I then got to continue my running, and that's now going to be ideally the perfect transition into the next 2 years of my running career. And honestly, whether or not Merced knows it, 2 of my favorite years of my running career ever. So that's the Hartnell section. Really special section. So everyone, thank you for watching thus far at this point. Monterey County guys, KC boys, you ran with me for 6 years. I hope you guys had a lot of flashbacks. And otherwise, we're going to do some last videos on KC boys and some JC people. But then we're going to go all about Merced. And it's about high time Merced heard all about Merced after hearing about King City and Hartnell for so many years. Otherwise, Zepeda, if you're watching this, thanks for letting me run on your team and not giving up on me. I'm very thankful that you didn't, and that I stuck with it on your team, because it led to 2 phenomenal years that I will forever be thankful for. And ran under by far the smartest coach I've ever ran under. All my coach, I had one very good thing I'm going to say. I had great coaches at every program I ran under. I would say Zepeda is the smartest coach I've ever ran under. I don't know what it is. He knew how to train in a way that I can't really explain, but it just works. Vicente, the Merced coach I have, he has a lot of similar training developments to Zepeda. I think the thing Zepeda has on him is experience. But I can see Vicente really growing to be not just a good coach, but a great coach whose reputation goes far and beyond just like Zepeda's. But Zepeda, by far, smartest coach I've ever ran under, and very thankful for that. Otherwise, guys, thank you. Hope you're enjoying this thus far, and now on to the next part. So we're gonna, just to reiterate, we're gonna talk about some people first before we go on to the last years of my running career, which is University of California, Merced. So with that, time to tap out.